Well, welcome to another edition of the Influence Global podcast. And I'm really delighted to have somebody from across the pond, Jessy Grossman, who I've gotten to know for some time. And I was on her show recently, and now she's going to be on my show. And so, Jessy, really welcome to the show today.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here and just another excuse to chat with you. So I'm excited.
And we're going to talk all about women in influencer marketing. And that's a really interesting subject, not least of all because there are so many amazing women creators out there, but also there's a lot of people on the agency and brand side that are running influencer campaigns. I thought it'd be really interesting to get your perspective on this. But before we do this, tell me how you got started, what you created this amazing community. Tell us how you got going.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It was a total passion project before I, really started to do it full time, even started to monetize it. So my background, well, I have a degree in theater. So I was on the directing side of things. I loved putting projects together, orchestrating, a whole crew of people to produce this event, this live event, basically. And so that parlayed itself into wanting to represent those actors and that talent. And so when I first moved to New York, I was, trying to aspiring to be in the theater, aspiring to do all that. And it wasn't quite reconciling with the lifestyle that I wanted to lead, right? Like I wasn't really someone who wanted to be an adult, like with roommates. And I didn't want to, really struggle in one of the most expensive cities in the world. So I tried to find something that matched my interests and my passions and what I thought I was good at. And that lent me to exploring talent representation. I was still working with actors, but it was on the business side of things. And I felt like I could help them and enjoy that more. So I did. I was at a really great agency for about 6 years. And about 4 years into that, I was like, what else is there? I'm always sort of like looking for the next thing, the next thing. And in that capacity, it was influencers. So I launched their influencer division. I left 2 years after that to start my own agency. And once that sold, I had created WIIM back in 2017 when I was at that agency, when I had my own company. And it was always this, I was looking for something like it. Nothing like it existed. I'm in New York and there's tons of networking groups. Like that wasn't missing. But people, when I would go to them and I would tell them, I work with influencers, I either felt like they were judging me and thought it was a joke, or that they just didn't take it seriously and they thought it was a fad, but they certainly didn't understand it. And it wasn't the people I was looking to find and to network and do business with. So I created it, and it's certainly taken so many different iterations since it started back in 2017. But today, it's this incredible community of women who are in the influencer space, who hire influencers, who advocate for influencers on the brand, agency, management side, and the amount of people who've gotten jobs from it, who have gotten so many different types of opportunities, learnings, mentorship. It's pretty incredible to be able to say that this is what I get to do all day long and really genuinely help people. So that's a little bit about our origin story.
Yeah. And how many people have you got in the group now?
So we have thousands of people in our orbit for sure, just having organically just been around since 2017. But when it comes to our membership, which I refer to as our super community and our super fans, right now we have about 450 people.
Right, isn't it? Yeah. Now, largely those are people in America, aren't they? But I think you might have aspirations to grow that into a bigger space as well, which I think is really quite exciting. And I'd love to help you spread the word in doing that, because I am often fascinated by how many women entrepreneurs there are emerging from this, not just from the creative side, but from people that are running businesses. And it can be a daunting experience, can't it? And sometimes maybe women are just better at bonding together when it comes to business. What do you think? Why is it this industry is so highly geared towards women?
Well, I think there's lots of reasons behind it, but it's certainly something that we've like embraced as an organization. I mean, when we first started, I was like, I'm personally really passionate about women in business, and I would love to create something that supports women in their careers. But am I shooting myself in the foot by making it just for women? Well, transparently, like I didn't think so, and I still don't think so because the industry happens to be largely female oriented. So it kind of worked to my advantage. But to your question, like, what are some of the differences? Like, first of all, I do like want to acknowledge that, like, just as not all men are the same, like not all women are the same. So I can make some generalizations, but like, of course, that's just a generalization. I think that like a lot of women um do enjoy that idea of community and that idea of like telling stories and sharing information and just like communicating in a certain way that's really conducive to having a community around them. And I think that, like, at its core, that's a lot of what influencer marketing is. It's building communities and it's telling stories and it's, sharing information with each other. And, you certainly see the opposite of that though with some women. I think that's what we as an organization are also looking to combat, because there were times, and in a lot of instances still are moments and opportunities where, it's like it can be very competitive. And so people sort of squirrel that information away and aren't necessarily open and sharing context because, we operate like some people out of fear and, there's only one seat at the table. I want that seat. But I think like fundamentally, I personally believe that, women, just people in general, the more that we share, the more that we support each other, it will return to you tenfold. Of course, you're going to help that person, but it also always comes back to you as well. So it's thinking about community and networking in an entirely new way.
And I guess a more educated industry actually makes the cake bigger, doesn't it? So that we all get a bigger slice of it, rather than actually thinking about it from a very, single focus. Because otherwise, all we're if we're not growing the size of the cake, we're all just taking chunks out of each other, aren't we? And we're left with crumbs, rather than, if, like any community, if you're clear about the values and what people can get out of it, but also it's about what they put into it as well. So true, isn't it?
That's a lot of it, actually. And like I'm in other communities of that other people host too and have too. And that sentiment is just so true because I experience it when I'm the student for a second in other communities. And I know that, and I've experienced firsthand, the more that I lean in to, anything in life, but certainly in a community and an opportunity, you got to, like, because no one's going to come to you. No one, I don't know. Maybe some of the people are very lucky. I've never been that person where someone's just going to hand me an opportunity or, here's this great thing, go run with it. That's just not been my life. So,
Right.
I'm preconditioned to have to lean into things, but simultaneously I found that when I do, I get so much more out of it. And I see it because sometimes I'll get, whether it's laziness or just, busy and I have to take a step back from things. But the second I lean back into it again, it like you feel it more. And it's
Mm.
great to feel that reward for the hard work you put in.
But also, you're a semi lobbying group as well, aren't you? Because actually, if you're looking to create new laws around this, there's that's a sizable group of people that have a vested interest in making sure that any changes in the law around online stuff that goes on, or about disclosures, legal disclosures. There's quite a powerful group there, to be honest, that could add value to bills that could be passed in favor or otherwise. So yeah, no, it's really good. So who's inspired you? You're an inspirational lady in your own right by setting this group up, and obviously a lot of people look up to you, I'm sure. But who inspires you?
I mean, I don't know that we have time to go over all the people who have inspired me, but what I will say is I'm constantly inspired by people who are really innovating, who are like usually going out on their own and like wanting to start their own companies. So there's like a few people that come to mind who, we've had conversations late at night and they're confiding in me how nervous they are to leave, their comfy corporate jobs and but they have this idea and, what was it like for you? And they're basically trying to like suss it out, through me and see, how hard is it really? What is it like? And I make a very conscious effort to be those people's cheerleaders as much as possible. Because I know what I experienced when I was, on the cusp of leaving my corporate job and going to do my own thing and how scary it is, just mostly the unknown. And I think that more people need to give permission, first of all, and then also just say, like, you're perfectly capable of killing this. Like, not even just doing it, but doing a great job.
Mm.
And like, sure, I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it, but like, I happen to be around really incredible, smart people. And I think our industry needs more innovation. I think that for being so new and for sort of like being off to the races so quickly towards the beginning of the creator economy, I'm a little surprised with how far along we are with innovation and how far we've taken it. And what I mean by that is I thought we would be further along. And I think I have a lot of theories about why I think that is, but I'm inspired by a lot of people who I've met who are just, they have an idea and they're going with it and they just lean fully into it. And that's inspiring to me.
Yeah, no. Anybody specific you want to share or that is jumping out at you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple women in particular, and one introduced me to the other even. Excuse me. So one of them, her name is Aomi. She has this incredible company called Canopy. It's for creators where it's like she's building a community for creators, this beautiful app that they designed. And she's doing, in-person events and it's this whole incredible community. And then I was introduced to her by this woman, Kristen Danino Guzman, who we did a panel together this summer. But I met her earlier than that. And she has this incredible company called Clara for Creators, which is about creating another community for creators, but it's all about pay transparency and creating a platform where you can share all that really important information. And I just think like tearing down the barriers to entry, like having all that transparency there. It's just like, it's time. I think it's really overdue. So I think it's really admirable what she's doing.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see that, isn't it? And I mean, even when I wrote my book, I had a degree of imposter syndrome. And I think a lot of people don't always want to share that. They want to, but they all have it. Loads of us have challenges in our life, particularly if we're stepping into the unknown. It's very easy to be in a corporate role where you're getting a regular paycheck every month, and suddenly you're going into the unknown. You're having to earn your paycheck every month, and there's going to be bad months, absolutely, and but for all of those, the idea that you've created something from start to finish is truly rewarding, isn't it? And I'm guessing quite a lot, we use the word collabs, don't we, a lot in influencer marketing, and it's so true because that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's collaboration, not just with agency and brand and creator, but it could be two agencies together that do slightly different things, have different niches, or it could be an influencer agency and a platform and a creator all working together to create a really amazing, a campaign. You did talk about innovation. I don't know if you've been to Cannes Lions Festival, but it is truly amazing, absolutely spectacular. And if you want innovation and creativity, that is where it is. It's the world's biggest event for that.
I was actually excited that I heard this coming up year in 2024. VidCon and Cannes Lions are no longer going to be
Same time.
overlapping.
It's a
And
really good point, actually. Yeah.
I think that last year, a lot of people were like really conflicted over which one to go to. And it was I think it affected both of them in terms of attendance. So I'm actually very excited that I just heard they're not overlapping next
Yeah,
year.
you got to come. I mean, it's going to be very much part of my calendar for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your own personal journey along the way. Now, you've run your own business. Talk to us about what's the highlight of your journey. What's been something that you thought, wow, I'm so excited that this has happened.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, it's probably, I guess it is what it is. It's sort of the like I mean, I think that when I had my first business and probably throughout my career, I definitely had people who, whether they directly said, like, you can't do this or you shouldn't do this,
Yes.
or people who just, I know, didn't believe in my capabilities or whatever it was. They did not believe in me. And so, kind of like going through the process, building something and proving people wrong, and like and honestly, that sort of stuff seeps into your psychology whether you want to admit it or not. So while I could say, like, they're full of it, like, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to go through it, like, I'm going to be honest and say, like, when you hear stuff like that, like when I hear stuff like that, I start to question myself and question my abilities and think, like, maybe they're right, maybe I'm not seeing something. And I think that I know for a period of time between a couple different businesses that I had, my confidence took a big shot based on what a few people were putting in my head. And I think that the biggest reward has been just believing in myself more, and getting over that. And I'm not one really to, I don't know, like, there's this sense of like toxic positivity, like this, where it's just, it doesn't feel real. It feels over the top. It doesn't, I mean, like, I don't resonate with it. But I bring that up because as much as I wanted to believe that I was capable of these things, I just sort of had to do it. That was the only way to really prove it to myself. I couldn't just say, like, oh, Jess, they're wrong. Or like, you're better than that. Like, I had to do it. I really, truly had to do the work and prove it to myself. And like, that's been a really incredible experience to just like get a bit of my confidence back when it comes to business. So yeah, that's been a wild ride.
Well, that's sometimes, and I can relate to that entirely. I used to work in the drinks industry many, many years ago, and I moved from what we used to call on and off trade. I don't know if you have that in the States, but on is the licensed trade, and off is the convenience or the retail side. And I was transitioning from one side to another. And somebody, one of the salesperson said, you're an on trade guy, you'll never really make it in the off trade. It's a cutthroat, different type of business. And I did, and I was very successful at doing that, and went on to be, like, sort of salesperson of the year that following year. And you know what? I almost want to thank the guy that said that to me, because in a way it gave me that sort of what we call a red rag to a bull, to say, you want to prove somebody wrong. But it is tough in business. It is tough. And many of the people that will be in your community will have had highs and lows. And so it's great to hear the success of that. But equally, what's been a difficult moment for you? What's been something really quite challenging?
I mean, there's a long list of things, a long, long list of things. I mean, one of them that comes to mind is like, it's similar to what we were just talking about, I guess, but just having people are like, either put a bug in your ear or just people who are not your advocates, and having to do business with them and having to just deal with difficult people who, like, maybe are
Mm.
just really different, or, whatever it is. And I think that like setting boundaries has been a really important way around that. Um, I think a lot of us are people pleasers, and especially in, any sort of business where there's like some sales component, it's scary to think that like you're going to eliminate a potential sale from your business because it doesn't feel right. It's like, I mean, do I have the luxury of doing that? I used to think of that, when I used to represent influencers and like firing a client, like, maybe I could make it work. Like, how can I, how can me and my team like just double down and, how can we figure out this puzzle? And the truth is that I've never regretted firing a client. I've tossed back and forth sleepless nights about it. But when I finally get to the point that I've done it, first of all, it's the biggest sense of relief because there's a reason you wanted to do it in the first
Exactly.
place. And
Yeah.
then normally what happens is that you get a replacement client and you're like, oh my God, if I wouldn't have, parted ways with that person, I wouldn't have allowed this other way better experience to be part of my business. But we're in a business of human beings and it's complicated. Relationships are complicated, whether you're, working on the brand side, whether you're a talent manager, which is the most intimate type of relationship to have with a client. So it's
Mm.
very nuanced, but I think that just like setting boundaries and sort of acting quickly is also something that I've gotten better at and that I recommend. If you feel something in your gut and you think that this is the decision that you should make, go with it sooner than later. Like, don't deliberate back and forth for so long. You'll ultimately probably get to that same conclusion, and imagine how much you could have been doing in that time where you were just debating and deliberating about whether to do it or whether to not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you said something quite interesting there, which I think resonates with one of the most important subjects around influencer marketing, which is alignment. Now, when a client is off, in other words, it's like you got a different, you're not on the same path. You're not aligning. And that's so, so important with influencer and brand collaborations generally, aren't they? And if you get that wrong, it's not going to work. So being able to, make some informed decisions about that early on, I think is really important. And I've fired a client as well. I've done it in a nice way, but I just thought, this is going to be a complete nightmare if I don't pull this now. But yeah, also I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about making sure that I was very clear about exactly what I would do and what was required of you, because it's very easy to just use that dreaded word assumption, and you think that that person's going to know more about it and that's going to be fine. Then you think actually they haven't done what I expected them to do. But there you
And
go.
managing
Expectations,
expectations from
yes,
the
for sure.
beginning. Like it might, you're gonna have to. It takes time to do that, to communicate that, to come up with it, to put it sort of in writing of sorts. But like, I always believe that even if it takes an additional upfront effort, it pays dividends down the road when everyone is truly being honest and, super clear about what the expectations are. But then, of course, like it needs to be revisited every so often, but just communication really helps.
Totally, totally true. So what's the future look like? What's the plans for the Women in Influencer Marketing group? Where do you want to take your ladies?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just following them on the rocket ship that they're on, and we're just here to support. But we are, we're continuing to do a lot of in-person activations. We did 5 big activations this year, 2 in LA, 2 in New York, 1 in Chicago. And we're
Wow,
really wanting to
amazing.
like parlay on that momentum for 2024. So we're going to be announcing something really exciting soon. Basically, we're going to be, I can say it. We're having ambassadors in cities like all over, and we're going to be hosting more in-person events. And we this year in 2023, we did these big bashes in each city. It was like 100 plus people at each event, and it was we had gift bags, and it was just like a whole thing. And I think that that's lovely and wonderful, and we'll continue to do it. But I also sense that there's an appetite for more intimate gatherings where it's just a happy hour, just a lunch, a
Mhm.
breakfast, whatever it is. And just having the connection with people in maybe a less pressure filled environment. Some people really thrive in that. And so we're going to be hosting so many more in person events all over, and big and small. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I mean, I actually quite like a lot of smaller events. I do quite a few executive dinners for about 10 to 12 people. And I love that. I love the fact that everybody has the chance to talk about a subject matter, and everybody's opinions are considered. And there's often an outcome as part of it. And it's just a lovely way to get to people. And you also realize that social events are a great way to build relationships, aren't they? It's not always about business. It's actually about what sort of things can we do for fun as well, because otherwise it's all work, and you need a bit of play at the same time. Right, well, it's been absolutely fantastic, Jessy, having you on the podcast today. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I mean, check out our website. I think that's the easiest way because we've got links to everything. It's iamwim.com. So IAMWIIM.com. You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn is probably the place that we're most active, but we also have a podcast, of course, that Gordon was on. I hope you listened to that episode. He was you're an awesome guest. And
Thank you.
yeah, just we'll meet you wherever you are. We're on all social media. So our website's probably the best place.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessy, and all the very best.
Thank you.